Chapter 11, Coming Out of Purgatory, Confessions, Faith and Love. You had to have slept with him, Vicky. Harriet exclaimed, amused and enthusiastic, with a certain tone of affectionate reprimand. Harriet, do not be silly. Even I do not know if I did well to kiss him, Victoria said anxiously as she walked restlessly from one side to the other in her bedroom in the guest house. Do you regret kissing him? Nancy asked, sitting on Victoria's bed. No. I do not know. My God, I'm so stupid! Exclaimed Victoria, falling down face down on her bed, next to Nancy, and burying her face in the mattress. Vicky, we are not in the era of our grandparents. If you like Lord William, you just have to go ahead. You are adult and you can enjoy your sexuality as you prefer, said Harriet, sitting on the bed. Harriet, sex is not everything in life. This situation has been crazy from the beginning, and now everything is more confusing than ever. I do not know what to do. I am absolutely lost, Victoria replied, raising her head and watching Harriet with some anguish. But Victoria, you have feelings for him, said Nancy as an affirmation. Yes, I have them. I cannot deny what is obvious. I would not have kissed him if I did not feel something for him. And that is what most anguishes me, because you know that. I did not want to fall in love again in my life, and now I am falling in love with this man who is still a mystery to me, who is still almost unknown to me, a man who has practically paid me to marry him, even though he is a man who could have to almost any woman in the world. I am afraid of all this. I am afraid of what I feel and what may happen, Victoria answered between anguished and sad. Vicky, I will not be as smart as you, but I think the best thing in these cases is to let yourself be carried away by your heart. If you do not face what you feel, if you do not test yourself, you will not know what is best for you, and you might regret not having tried, said Harriet earnestly. This time I agree with Harriet, Vicky. You must explore your feelings to discover what you really feel and make the best decisions. You must venture out of that shell that you put on your heart, only then you can mature and learn to live without fear. The worst that can happen is that things do not work with William and you suffer a disappointment, but that's part of life, Vicky. You're brave and that's why I know you can face anything, said Nancy, stroking Victoria's arm. I know you two are right. What has started between William and me, whatever it is, I must face it. I cannot simply hide or flee. That's why I agreed to go out with him on that date, tonight, Victoria replied seriously, as she sat on the bed. Now we must choose a hot underwear for you tonight, said Harriet cheerfully and with almost childlike enthusiasm. Harriet. My God, you say an intelligent thing and the next minute you're yourself again, Victoria exclaimed in a complaint. What's wrong, Vicky? If nothing happens, well, but it's better to be prepared. Do not you want to look bad if the opportunity arises? Harriet replied with a mischievous smile. Incredibly, I agree with Harriet, Victoria, Nancy said and waved her hand for patience to Victoria when she saw her mouth open to protest. Vicky, as you both said, him and you, in that conversation, you two feel a desire to live reborn, and you should be given the opportunity to enjoy happiness in any sense. I do not say that you rush, I do not advise you to go very fast, but I do not want you to close your feelings and I want you to allow yourself to live again for you and not for others, added Nancy in an affectionate tone. I know you're right and you say it because you love me, but you know that the issue of intimacy with a man, for me, is not easy, said Victoria, bowing her head sadly. I know, honey, but that's why I want you to make an effort to leave the past behind and concentrate on trying to be happy, and I hope William can be the man you deserve, Nancy replied and hugged Victoria, and Victoria buried her head on Nancy's chest, while Harriet joined the two, hugging Victoria from behind. That night William took Victoria to a luxurious restaurant, 3-star in the Michelin Guide. He dressed elegantly, in a suit and tie, and she dressed in fashion, in an elegant and subtly sexy black dress, which was quite short and revealed her legs, and was low-cut. She was wearing high-heeled sandals, and she was really beautiful, generating a surprise reaction in Lord William that took a few moments to wake up from his reverie when he saw her. Both entered the restaurant with her hand on his arm, and William hurriedly pulls the chair for Victoria to sit down. The night passed in a very pleasant way, with William being charming in a sincere and natural way, and Victoria responding enthusiastically and happily in spite of her shyness to be in such a luxurious place and so alien to her previous life, preoccupied with the idea of committing errors in the protocol that should be used in a high society dinner. But with affection, William corrected the small errors of etiquette and advised her how to behave at the table without making her feel stupid. The conversation led to intimate topics, experiences of the private lives of both. Victoria was surprised at the way she talked to William about things she did not talk about with anyone and that they had become taboo to her, like her father's. And William made her feel comfortable, showing interest, respect and compassion for her. "I really admire you, Victoria. I do not know if at your age I would have been able to bear so much weight on my back. I grew up in a privileged ambient, sincerely. At your age I must confess that I was like many children of rich families. I was a spoiled child in some aspects and I dedicated myself to the pleasures of life, the pleasures that can be enjoyed with ease thanks to the money. Honestly, I was a womanizer and a party guy, and I should not worry about the family's livelihood because that's what my father was for. That's why I cannot even imagine how hard it has been for you," said William with sadness and a certain shame. "Your life has not been easy either," Victoria said sadly and shyly. "Yes, it's true, but my hell came much later, with more age than you have now. But better let's not talk about sad things anymore," answered William as he drank some wine from his glass. "I agree," Victoria replied, as she drank some wine from her own glass. "The only thing I want to add, is that what I said yesterday, I said it with all my heart, and even so I feel I underestimated you. I don't know what will happen in the future, I don't know what will happen between us, but I do not want you to ever forget these words if, someday I'm not there, to repeat them or I've forgotten them by a miracle. Victoria, you're a good person, an honest and noble person, and you're a strong and courageous woman who can face any challenge in her life. You are a very special person, and I really believe that few people in the world have so many virtues, and it really saddens me that you are not able to see how special you are, to believe that you are not worthy of living among those people of ambient in which I live, when many of them do not even have half of your human quality," said William a little excited, and surprised of his own sincerity. Victoria's eyes moistened. "Thanks, William," Victoria said excitedly. "Not to mention you're a very beautiful woman, honestly, when I saw you tonight, you cut me the breath. You look very beautiful, elegant and sexy in that dress. Believe me when I tell you that many men would like to be in my place today, many men would like to have the opportunity to have a date with you, even in that, you are also very special," said William with an intense look that shook Victoria. "Be careful, William. I'll end up believing you," exclaimed Victoria, blushing and smiling in a fun and sweet way. "Well, believe it," William replied with a smile while winking at her. They both laughed a little, and then William turned back to the food. Victoria was going to do the same, but she was silent for a moment, then turned to look at William with an intense look that reflected mixed feelings, among which pain and anguish stood out. William noticed and saw her, worried. "Victoria, what's wrong?" William asked in a tone of certain anguish. "William, I have something to..." "William, I'm not a virgin," Victoria said with moist eyes, embarrassed, flushed and with her lips trembling. William was bewildered, obviously confused. "Victoria, I did not expect you to be," William replied, and when he saw the expression of surprise and a certain scandal on Victoria's face, he got nervous thinking that he had made a mistake and he would have offended her. "Not for you, not because it's you, what I meant, is that in these times, well in fact for a long time, it's very difficult that a girl your age, well, most of the girls your age have already lost, what I want to say is that most girls of your age are already sexually active," added William, very nervous and uncomfortable, worried about the possibility of offending Victoria, uncomfortable about the subject they were talking about, and because although he honestly understood Victoria actually disliked the idea of her having sex with another man even in the past. "Of course, you do not have to worry, William, you have not said anything that could offend me, on the contrary," Victoria said, trying to sketch a sweet smile, but then she returned to sketch a gesture of sadness and shame. "And I know that what you are saying is quite obvious, and in other circumstances I would not even have to mention the subject, because as you say a man would not necessarily have to wait that a girl my age, well, that things are the way they are. But, if we had a normal romance, with the intimacy that arises between two people when they discover each other and fall in love, surely I would not have to say this, and, I'm not reproaching you, William. Now I think that meeting you has been one of the best things that have happened to me in my life," Victoria added with tears about to come out of her eyes and trying to smile again. "But in these circumstances I think it is necessary for you to know this, of what I have not spoken with almost anyone in my life, something it is very shameful and painful, but you need to know it to understand me," Victoria added with the pain reflected in her face. Victoria was silent for a moment as if she needed to gather strength to continue, while William saw her between compassionate and concerned about her. "After the death of my father, I was lost. I felt angry with the world, with everyone, even with my mother, who was not to blame for anything. I locked myself in and lived in a depression, and it really became very difficult to live with me. So a couple of years went by, and then I met a boy," Victoria said, and made a brief pause to drink water, while a tear escaped her eyes. "He was 3 years older than me. He was a handsome boy and had that personality type, you know, he could be charming, and he always knew that telling a girl what was appropriate to make her fall in love, and at the same time he looked to be very bold, very daring, macho, and intimidating. In short, he was a bad boy, that kind of bad guys that stupid girls like them, like me," Victoria added with a wry smile, and the bitterness painted on her eyes and the gesture on her face. William listened with respectful silence and a tense expectation, while his heart accelerated a little. "My friends warned me that he was a womanizer, that he only used girls to have fun and then he discarded them, that was his fame in the neighborhood. My mother saw him a couple of times and she told me that she did not like him, but and then I did the opposite of what my mother wanted, and I behaved with her like a spoiled idiot. I thought that if all he wanted from me was sex I would not wait that long, because I resisted his advances enough, and yet he kept insisting, but without pressing me, swore to me that he did not care about waiting because he really cared for me, because I was different from the other girls, because what he felt with me was different from what he felt for the others. And I was so stupid for believing him," Victoria said with deep bitterness in his voice. "So, one day I finally gave in. I allowed him to steal my virginity, we had sex." Victoria looked down, while William cleared his throat a little, uncomfortable and having mixed feelings. "We had sex a few times more, in fact they were not many, because it was not long before it was confirmed what they had warned me, that the only thing he wanted from me was for him to have fun, and that I am one of a very long list. Until then everything could have been a very frequent story, that of a silly girl who gives her virginity to a lout who played with her, making her believe it was love and not just fun. After all, the first sexual experience of many women must have been so, instead of being at least one case in which you gave your virginity to your first serious boyfriend, to your youthful love, even though he would not be the only man in your life, let alone your greatest love or last love. Well, as I said, my case, although sad, it would have been quite usual if it had not been because he videotaped our first sexual encounter without my knowing it," Victoria said with tears running down her cheeks. William felt sorry for her, but he remained silent to let her speak, while Victoria made an effort to continue. "I suppose using a hidden camera to record how you steal the virginity of a stupid girl and so be able to show it to your friends, who are as bastards as you, must be something very funny," Victoria continued with bitterness and sarcasm, while drying tears with the back of a hand. It even seems that he had bet with his friends that I was a virgin and that he was going to be the lucky one who was going to enjoy my virginity, and the video was the evidence that he had won the bet," she added with pain. William clenched his fist in anger and had to have a glass of wine. A boy who was dating Harriet in those days learned that he was sharing the video with his friends, and that's how I found out it. I felt that the world was collapsing. I went to complain him and ended up slapping him, in front of his friends, and when he tried to attack me, Harriet, Nancy and I hit him, and Harriet's boyfriend intervened and got into a fight with him, but then it got worse, because the video ended up on the internet and everyone, the students of my high school, saw it. You can imagine that my life became a hell. I was a victim of bullying. In school almost all of them were very cruel and treated me like trash, especially girls. I had to get used to that they called me bitch and that the boys treated me like an easy girl. Only Nancy and Harriet stayed by my side and fought with anyone who picked on me. All that hurt me too much, but it hurt me so much or more to have hurt and disappointed my mother. She cried for days and I could not bear to see her like that. My mother had to report the boy to the police for what he had done to me, and since I was still a minor and he was of legal age, he went to jail for some time, even though he came to an agreement to avoid the trial and a possible greater sentence. All that hell, added to the tragedy of my father and the illness of my mother, led me to wish death, and I even had suicidal thoughts, so I had to receive psychiatric treatment. Thanks to my mother, my sister, Harriet, and Nancy, I could get out of that abyss and survive and have a relatively normal life, but that wound is inside me, and that's why I did not want to know anything about men. I did not want to fall in love again. I did not want to put my heart back into the hands of a stranger, Victoria said, crying and trying to suppress the pouts while taking a handkerchief that William gave her to wipe the tears, that they were dark due to mascara. "How old were you then?" William asked in a very gentle way. "I was 16 years old," Victoria answered, making an effort to master her voice broken by emotion. William watched her in silence for a moment and then put his hand on her hand, making Victoria see him in the eyes. "Thank you for trusting me, Victoria. Thank you for telling me something so intimate and painful. Victoria, what that scoundrel did to you is unforgivable. No woman deserves to suffer something so terrible, humiliating and degrading. I would like to kill that bastard that did that to you. That scoundrel is not even human, doing something so disgusting. But the world is like that, Victoria. It is full of evil, and unfortunately I know it very well. But I want you to know that what you have told me has only made me feel more admiration for you. You are very strong to have survived something like that, and you should also know that none of that blemish your innocence. For me you are an absolutely pure and innocent girl. And I need to tell you this: you must not allow a bad experience with such a repulsive being to ruin your life. Even if in the future our paths are separated, I want that you to know that you are such a beautiful woman and such a valuable being that many, many men would want to love you, men more valuable than me. To love you, and above all, to be loved by you is the best thing that could happen to me and any man, who is not blind or stupid. Believe me, Victoria, please, believe me," William said in a voice broken by emotion and seeing Victoria in the eyes with a look full of compassion and affection. Victoria cried again, but this time with gratitude, and then a sweet smile appeared on her face. Upon arriving back from the restaurant, Victoria and William were standing in the space between the guest house and the big house. William was preparing to say goodbye when suddenly Victoria was watching him with shyness and anxiety. "William, if you want, I could accompany you to the house. I would not like to say goodbye to you tonight," said Victoria, blushing and shaking, when she proposed to William that they make love. William smiled tenderly and stroked Victoria's cheek. "No, I do not think we should do it tonight," William said, and seeing the disappointment and sadness in Victoria, put his finger under her chin and made her raise her head. "Because I prefer to wait for the wedding night, not because be old-fashioned, but because the first time I will make love to you I want it to be very special for both, especially for you. I want to give you the most romantic night of your life. I want to make you to feel so special, as I would have made you feel if I had had the luck to have received your virginity as a gift," said William, and before Victoria could open her mouth to answer, he hugged her and kissed her on the lips with passion. "You have no idea how hard it is for me to hold back, because I wish you so much, I desire so much own your body and make love to you," added William after breaking the kiss and placed his chin on Victoria's head. "And I too. I feel the same," Victoria said with a lovely smile as she buried her face in his chest and acknowledged her defeat, because she had fallen in love again, of the man she never expected to fall in love with. After one more kiss on the lips and hug for a couple of minutes, both separated and Victoria took off her high-heeled sandals, to feel the grass of the garden between both houses under her bare feet. When she opened the door of the guest house, she saw her two friends who had been spying on the scene through the window and were waiting with smiling faces. "I do not know what the hell I helps you choose some sexy panties if you did not give them a good use at the end," Harriet exclaimed, and then the three of them laughed, and Victoria mixed laughter with tears of happiness.